Excuse me. Excuse me? You dropped this.
Oh, thanks.
No problem.
That is exactly how it happens, right, ladies? Just go into your local Target and you will find your man. Although single guys, that is the place to go to find some ladies. My single guy friends, they're like, yo, man, I saw this girl in Target. Like, that's the number one thing that I hear. I'm like, apparently that's the place. So, man, we're starting this brand new series called Stuck in a Rut. And I know right out of the gate, if you are single, if you are divorced, if you're a middle school kid, if you're a high school kid, you're going, this ain't the series for me, I'm checking out. Like, you immediately do this. Or if you have been married a while and you're just like, I've been married a while, I know how this goes. You, above all people, should know you have no clue how this goes because you've been married a while, and the longer you're married, the more you realize you don't know anything about anything. You're just trying to figure it out and I started looking into this. Ladies, you guys are complicated. Like, and I applaud you. My hat is off to you. Bravo. Like, us guys, it's like you give me steak potatoes and you just tell me I'm good looking and you set me in front of a TV and a recliner and I get to run around, and play sports or do whatever, and I'm good. You guys, there's stuff that still, and I live with 4 of y'all. Every week. And so I'll just kind of throw my hands up and go, God, I'm going to have to trust you because I have no idea how this is going. Because the day that I have it figured out is the next day I turn around, I'm like, I have no clue what I'm doing at all. And they're like, why are you crying? I don't even know. And I'm like, what is that about? And you guys, and so now I'm changing that reaction and I just go and cry myself. And we're looking in this series. And so this series is for all of us. And I believe that even as we dive into this, that if you take these precepts that we talk about in your relationships in general, even in some of your friendship relationships, and what we're going to talk about over the next 5 weeks, I believe that things will begin to change for the better in your time spent with other people, and even more so in the context of dating and in marriage. And you might be like, man, I'm not even sure about God yet, much less even dealing with all this stuff. I believe that if you're, all right, so we'll give you a pass. You're not on the God train yet, but you're still checking this out because you go, I like the music and you're okay sometimes, Pastor Guy, but I don't know about this. I believe that you could still take these precepts and watch your relationships change. And I firmly believe that if you do this and you walk through some of these, that you go, man, there might be something to this plan that God has for me and for other people. And I started looking up in preparation for this series some of the things that talk about marriage and relationships and all that and the history of it and facts and figures. And some of this stuff is absolutely fascinating. Like, the term for best man dates back to the times when Scotsmen kidnapped their future brides. The friend of the groom who had excelled at the abduction was claimed to be the best man. And so, you would sit down with your buddies and go, I like that girl, get her. And, everybody would run, and the guy who got it, he was the best man. Another one, it was accepted practice in Babylon times, thousands of years ago, for the month after the wedding, the bride's father would supply his son-in-law with all the mead he could drink. Mead is a honey beer, and because the calendar was lunar-based, this period was called the honey month. Or what we now know today is the honeymoon. Nothing got done during the honey month, apparently. Just what are you doing? I'm just drinking some beer. That's all I'm doing. What are you doing? That's my job. Ladies, this is scary. Traditionally, bridesmaids were dressed in similar bride-like gowns to confuse rival suitors, evil spirits, and robbers. In case you're unsure about what I just said, you get your girlfriends together. Do you want to be in my wedding? You're going to wear the same dress. You're going to stand up there because there's a chance that Braveheart and his goons will come in and take you. Nobody, imagine that now. Everybody's like, oh, you're so special. I want you to be my bridesmaid. We're like, no, I'm not getting kidnapped. You're on your own. I'll watch via Skype. I'm done. All right? There's some other things that are pretty interesting in this. Couples who spend less on their wedding tend to have longer lasting marriages. And so, ladies, tone it down. All right? And You're going to live long. Just go down to the courthouse. Go hang out with Elvis in Vegas and do it. Most married couples are happiest in their third year of marriage. Not the first year when everything's perfect and you know what I'm saying, and you're doing stuff. Like not in the second year after that kind of gets a little old and you're like, wait a second, you get on my nerves because you leave the toothpaste unopened, and all this other stuff. It's the third year of marriage after you're like, we made it through the second year. We can do this. The longest recorded marriage lasted 91 years and 12 days. That's crazy. Absolutely bonkers. And here's some other stuff that's interesting. Due to jobs, kids, TV, the internet, hobbies, home, family responsibilities, etc., the average married couple spends just about 4 minutes a day alone. Couples who live together before marriage have a 72% higher divorce rate than those who wait. In the United States, in 2015, we averaged 100 divorces every hour. This is the one that definitely hit. 60% of married couples polled in 2014, and they polled couples who had been married from 3 years to like 40 and 50 years, admitted to dreaming about leaving their significant other for someone they thought would be more caring and less stressful to be with. And what's even more startling is of those 60%, 90% of them went through with moving to something that they thought the grass would be greener. And so I don't want to start this off in a heavy kind of thing, but we kind of need to start this off a little bit heavy when it comes to relationships. Because I think that, when we're younger, we treat them very flippantly. It's like, oh, you got a boyfriend? Oh, you got a boyfriend? Oh, that's so cute. And we run around and we send notes and whatever. And even in middle school, are you guys dating? Yeah, what are you doing? We go to school. Because you don't date. You're not going anywhere. Do you have a girlfriend? Yeah, she's over there. Have you guys talked? The time I asked her out, and that was through a note. Will you date me? Yes or no? She filled out maybe, so we're in. And so it starts off very playful and very childlike, and I think it's cute, But then as we get older, what relationships mean and the weight of those, we begin to watch that. I mean, just look around, you and I, at the relationships and families that we see. The truth is, and this isn't saying it to make anybody feel bad or to cast any shame. The truth is that families and the unit itself has been ravaged. It has been pillaged through, and much of that has been because unfortunately, people's selfishness. Because a relationship is about giving of ourselves. A marriage is about, I want to do for the other one, not receiving anything in return, but what can I do for you? And we get in this rut in relationships, which is why that 60%, in some of the new studies that they're slowly beginning to garner from the previous years, the raw data is coming out, and that 60% is skyrocketing. If they get all the data correct, it looks like it's going to be upwards of 75 to 80% of people have thought that. Which boggles my mind. Because people feel like they're somehow stuck in this rut. And that I look and I wake up next to this person and I don't know what to do. But then I look across the way, or I see a social networking profile, or I see someone at work, or I see a next door neighbor, and I think they obviously have it better. They have it together, and I'm going to go that direction, and that will fix everything. Now, before we go any further, I need you to know that wherever you're pointed, they have a truckload of issues. And the grass is not greener on the other side. I can promise you that. You're like, no, Jason, you don't understand. I'm with this person and I'm whatever. You're lying to yourself. Everybody's messed up. And so we think that somehow in the middle of this rut that we can do certain things and tweak certain stuff about our relationship, and that maybe we can get out of this rut, or sometimes it might even feel like a pit, a very dark well that we found ourselves in. And Francis and Lisa Chan wrote this book called You and Me Forever. And it's a fascinating book about marriage and relationships. He's a pastor from Northern California. And I love what he has to say about what doing all these little tweaks does, as opposed to, in relationships, pointing to something larger and greater. And he and his wife put it this way. He said, remember that there is an enemy who is seeking to destroy your marriage. And I want to pause there. We believe here at Forefront Church that there is God and that there is Satan. And I know that's not very popular. We also believe that there's heaven and that there's hell. And these are realities that the Bible paints. And so we talk about those and we open up and we don't want to shy away from them because it may or may not be politically correct. We talk about them because, well, God talks about them. And so he says that there's someone that wants to destroy us, and that's Satan. Our battle is not against flesh and blood, one another, or in the house when you're ready to take off your shoe because you've had enough of your spouse. And it points to this passage in the New Testament of the Bible. So we can't safeguard our marriage through more date nights, through more vacations or more counseling. Now, not that any of these things are bad. He says those things are not bad. But we have to see that there is more going on than simply the quick fixes. Sincere and concentrated prayer will do infinitely more than any human strategy for a happy marriage. What Francis and Lisa Chan are really getting at is we all get stuck in ruts in life. And when it comes to the context of relationships, when it comes to the context of marriage, when it comes to the context of dating, when we feel as though we're stuck, we immediately go, well, how can I change that? Well, I'm going to fix this, I'm going to fix this, I'm going to fix this. And they're saying, listen, those things in and of themselves, they can help, but they're not the root of the problem. It's like when your kid is behaving badly and you just go, well, I'll fix that. I'll spank you, you'll sit down. Now, I know that works in the short term, or I'll put you in timeout, or I will take this away, or whatever you do. But you have to dig down under the root to go, why is the child acting the way that they are? And let's fix and address and focus on that. And usually it's out of a sense of something deep down inside, not just, I want to stick the fork in the outlet. In the same way in relationships, when we look at this, and that's what they're addressing, is that there is a heart issue involved, and that we need to point back to the one who designed us in the first place. Now, you may not land there. You may come from a different school of thought about how we came to be and what's happened, and we'll give you a pass on that. But here at Forefront, we believe that God is the one who knit and orchestrated and continues to be involved in our existence and our future. And so how do we look at our lives as we open up the Bible, his story that we can begin to understand about his love and his grace? How can we look at our relationships and instead of being stuck in a rut, go, God, what do you want for me? And there's this passage that you've probably heard. How many of you guys have ever been to a wedding? Show of hands, yeah? Like, yeah, some of you guys are like, yeah, weddings. Especially, like, if you're in your 20s, you go into weddings all the time. Like, everybody getting married. You're like, hey, I ain't married right now. And you go to weddings. I've done a bunch of weddings, and you've probably heard this passage that we're going to look at. If you have a Bible, why don't you turn over to, it's in the New Testament of the Bible, 1 Corinthians chapter 13. 1 Corinthians chapter 13. If you don't have a Bible today after you leave, you can get one for free in the lobby at the Get Connected table. You can also download a Bible app if you search your app store. And if you want to take notes and engage what's going on, every week in our Forefront Church app, we put everything that we're talking about today, including quotes and links to other things in there so you can take notes and email them back to yourself. The only reason that we say that is we want to make sure that you engage your faith more than just this hour and change that we have here. Because we know that and we've referenced it this way, if you want to lose weight and you work out for like 10 minutes a week, the chances are that you're not going to what? Lose weight. Like, but you're like, man, I'm working really hard. Or if you want to go on a diet and your diet is Wendy's all week long and a salad one meal a week, I'm just going to take a shot in the dark that there's a chance that you're not going to get healthy. And in the same way, if we have all of our engagement in faith and with God in just this hour, it's not going to sustain us. And so we hope to give you these tools. They're just tools to be able to use. And before we jump in that passage, one of the things that I want to give you, and all you guys got one of these on your way in, and this isn't a commercial for it, we want to be able to help you with life. And so there's this thing called Forefront Life University, and there's classes on the front that happen regularly, but I want to draw your attention to the back top, and there's a class called The Meaning of Marriage. It's a seminar class that's going to be this summer, and my hope, and there's instructions on the front of the card on how to sign up, my hope is that you'd utilize that. And you might be like, I'm single, I don't need that class. Yo, you need the class. If you're married and things are like, okay, I would tell you take the class because you can rub off on somebody else. If your marriage is great, I'd love for you to go to the class. Because then you are going to have another couple who's like, we don't even know what we're doing. Like, we don't, and they were like you when you first got married, and you didn't even know. You think you didn't know. And so you got all this stuff. You might have couples that are dating and getting there, and they're great for each other. You might be sitting in there with a couple, and you sit next to them to be like, if they get married, it is going to be the biggest train wreck. Let's help them. And not, because sometimes you can't see the forest through the trees, and you might be in a relationship, and that person is cray, and you do not need to be with them. And we're going to look at, what does that mean? What does it mean to follow God? What does it mean to get out of the rut? What does it mean to follow him so deeply? In this passage over in 1 Corinthians, it's in chapter 13 as we begin reading. This is called the love chapter. Every time this gets read at a wedding, all the girls are like, it's so beautiful. And all the guys are like, can we get to the part where you may kiss the bride and party? And don't shame them, guys, ladies, if they're down with that. In 1 Corinthians 13:1, here's where it starts. If I speak in the tongues of men or angels, but do not have love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. This is looking at the actions versus the heart. Verse 2, if I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all the mysteries and all the knowledge, and if I have faith that can move mountains, but I do not have love, I am what? Nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor, like that sounds very like righteous, right? Like holy. If I give all I possess to the poor and give over my body to hardship that I may boast, that's basically saying like, I just give my life to God, and if I have hard times, I'll just go, oh, look at how amazing God is. But do not have love, I gain what? Nothing. And here's where the ladies get pumped, and it's like a Nicholas Sparks novel. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. It does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered, and this next part should be over everybody's doorway in your house so you can be reminded. It keeps no record of wrongs. Do not elbow them right now. You'll be sleeping on the couch, and they'll put that on the record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the, what? Truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. You know, I read that and it gets me excited about love and relationships. The problem is we're not perfect. And so when this plays out in a real context, these things don't jump out right away. It's like my wife and I think we were just newly married at the time, and we were going in, at the end of the month is the Strawberry Festival. How many of you guys have ever been to the Strawberry Festival here in Virginia Beach? Yeah, if you've never been, it's redneck heaven, all right? And no, I'm saying that in the most endearing way. Like, I love it. You pig races, you get a turkey leg. Sorry, all you guys who are PETA people. Like, you get a turkey leg, and you walk around, and you just, and there's craps, strawberry everything. You eat till you feel gross, and then you go home, you're like, that was awesome. And maybe you get on a ride, and then you ate till you felt gross, and then you got rid of all that because you went on a ride. And like, it's an amazing time. You should go. And we decided we were going to go, but it had rained the night before, and we went to go park, and there was a concrete area that you could park that's like huge, but I didn't want to wait because I'm impatient. You know, get in that boat. Love is patient. Jason is not patient. And so I was like, we're just going to park in this area over here where the ground's a little wet, but we'll be fine. As soon as we pull in, and Carrie corrected me on the story from first service, she was like, actually, it was worse than that. I was like, oh, great. And we go in, and all of a sudden, I feel the back end of the car in the mud. I'm like, super. And so I get out, and I tell her, I get in between, at the very back of the car, and I'm pushing. And I'm like, you just lightly hit the gas, and I'm in between, so the mud will go that way, mud will go that way. Well, yeah. Well, the car slides as she does. She hits it, and I had found some boards that were around. I try to wedge them underneath because I'm MacGyver, and I'm going to do this. And she hits the gas, and sure enough, the whole car, because it's muddy, and the whole back end just starts swinging. I'm like, super. And like, it's all just flinging. I'm like, stop my car, I'm getting all muddy. And I'm covered. We haven't even gotten to the Strawberry Festival yet. This is the part that I got wrong. First, I was like, we came back, and she's like, no. We never made it. And so I had all these expectations that I had of what I wanted her to help me do. And she was not doing what I thought. I wasn't verbalizing these because I was so frustrated. I was just angry. There's guys walking by and they're just laughing. This was before like everybody had a cool phone where they could YouTube it, thank God. And so they're walking by and I'm like, real cool. Come over here and help. And I may have said some things that I regret, but they come over and help and we get the car out and then we just drive home. We didn't even get to the Strawberry Festival. And I was so frustrated and I wanted her to do all these things. I didn't verbalize them, but I was so angry. And I had all these scenarios. Well, if you had done this, if you would help me in this way. And you know the battle that you have? And hopefully if you have any filter, you never say these things out loud. But like you practice them like, I'm going to tell her. But I realized on the drive back, it was much more about me being wrecked on the inside. That's why my response was happening than it was about anything that she had done. She had done everything right, and I shouldn't have expected her to do this stuff. And I had all these behaviors that I hoped that she would do. And it wasn't even about that. It was about me and my wrecked stuff on the inside. And I wrote this down. This is how I process stuff. And I'm going to unpack it in a second because you might hear it. You might be like, huh? Is that being stuck in a rut, wherever you're at in life, relationship, whatever, isn't about behaviors. It's about unbroken hearts. And this is what I mean by that. If you have an unbroken heart in a relationship and other pieces, you look at what can I get out of it? It's all about me. Me this, me that. Look at my profile. Look at whatever you can do for me. If this is good for me, how does it affect me? Hey, you need to go to the store. Oh, can you get me something? Everything is about that person. And it is not broken by the love and grace of God. We're all broken people, but when we're not broken by God's love, we act out of our broken nature instead of being broken by Him who then restores us. And so broken people, we just move and feel and act the way that we want to until we are broken by the one who sets us free and opens up a whole new you. And then so broken people walk through and they're different. When they follow God, they're like, how can I serve you? What can I give away of my life? How can I honor you, protect you, serve you, help you, even if it means I get nothing in return? It's because they've experienced a beautiful love that only God provides. And so how do we get out of this rut when you and I are moving through that? And this is we have a takeaway each week because we want to make sure we don't throw 1,000 things at you, but something that we can throw against the wall and it sticks and we can remember it when midweek you were like, I told you that. And you're like, Pastor said, don't flip out. Don't lose my Jesus. I just need to calm down. I need to calm down and work through some of this. This is our main idea for this week as we jump into a 5-week series. Broken people with unbroken hearts. And so we're all broken. Every one of us. You, me, your kids, your mailman, your boss. Some of y'all, you're all like, yeah, that'll preach. Yeah, your boss, whoever it is. All of us are broken. And broken people with unbroken hearts, that they're not following Jesus, that they're not trusting in His love, not trusting in His grace, can only change. Not through more date nights, not through more counseling, not through more getting away and vacations, not through getting rid of the kids, because we all need to get rid of the kids every once in a while. If you're a kid in here, we love you, but you got to go sometimes because we need sanity. Not through any of that. It can only change through the power of what? Love. Through God's love. Through God's love transforming hearts that are rigid and don't want to be changed. That don't want to experience, that want to sit in our brokenness and those hearts just remain cold and stale. And until they are broken by the love of God, they remain together and unbroken, and we just sit in all of our mess and all of our anger and all of our pride and all the things that are serving to us. And love reminds us, if you're taking notes, you can write down some of these. Love reminds us that nobody's perfect. And now we say that, but I wonder if we really believe it. Because, and I wrote down this passage in the New Testament of the Bible, in the book of Romans. This guy, Paul, he planted churches. Here is a church plant, and you'll see churches around town. He went around and started churches. And he wrote this to the church of Rome. He said, for all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. That all have messed up. Every single one of us, that nobody's perfect. And I think we would all agree on that, yeah, Jason, you're right. I understand nobody's perfect. But do we act like that in relationships? Because the moment that we have a list of things that we expect, or a list of things that we want someone to do and they don't do them, oh, Jack, back up. All of a sudden, it's like if you asked your significant other at home, you're like, honey, today's going to be a long day. We got a lot of stuff going on. Can you? And you make the bullet list. And they drop the ball on a couple of those, everybody duck and cover, right? Everybody's flipping out. I can't believe you didn't do whatever. I got to. What do you say? You don't understand my. And you're going at it, and it's less like a marriage and more like Holyfield and Tyson, all right? And somebody's going to lose an ear if we're not careful, all right? And so we have to get to a place where we realize that nobody's perfect. Now, I want to take a brief pause and say, listen, if you've ever been in a situation where it has been abusive, where there has been an affair, where there has been adultery and all sorts of other things that have happened, and you're asking yourself, listen, I know nobody's perfect, but you need to understand that the beauty and the love of God has opened up the door for you to find healing and restoration outside of that. And we believe as a church, if you've gone through a divorce, if you've moved through some of these things, if you have hurting, and you go, listen, nobody's perfect, but, and look at this. We're not talking about nobody's perfect in that context. We know that there are hurtful situations that go on where people do need to get out of those. What we're talking about are the things that, they're not being sinful, they're not being hurtful, they just dropped the ball and didn't mow the lawn. Right? And all of a sudden we turn into the 60%, which looks like in studies as they grow is going to be to 75 and 80% who go, I wonder if the grass is greener over there. No, how about you quit staring at the grass over there and water your own grass? And realize that, listen, nobody is perfect. And so I need to jump into this and do what I can to help say this. And the other piece of that is love begins to remind us and teaches us that everybody's beautiful. I love this passage in the Old Testament of the Bible. It's in the Psalms. It says in Psalm 139, "For you formed my inward parts. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works. My soul knows it well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was being made in secret, intricately woven in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed substance. In your book were written, every one of them, the days that were formed for me, when as yet there was none of them." Listen, from the very beginning that God knit you and made you uniquely, that you are absolutely beautiful. Now, don't use this later on, you get in a fight and be like, Jason said I was beautiful. Yeah, don't say, God made me beautiful, and so you just need to deal with whatever, because they'll be like, yeah, God made me beautiful too, I'm about to make you more beautiful. You don't start getting into that and make it, that God has made each one of us absolutely unique and beautiful. And when we point ourselves to a bigger picture about what God's love truly means individually, then as we are even in friendships and relationships and within the context of marriage, we are looking at the best in that person and not the worst. That we're not watching them drop the ball and go, I could have told you that was going to happen. And instead, when they drop the ball, go, I love you, and I want to help you pick that ball up, and let's run this out together. I love, as they continue on in the book, Francis and Lisa Chan write this, and I believe it's so true. When two people are right with him, God, they will be right with each other. See, it takes two people to interact in this way, and I love this concept. And this played out really well recently, and I'll be real with y'all if we're allowed to be real and if we can be honest anywhere, it should be church. I know you're supposed to come in, smile. How you doing? Everything's fine. It's all right. Your life's crumbling, and you walk in here, everybody puts on a smile, and we leave. I'm not saying that we should all walk in just weeping, like, you don't understand. There's a balance there, but we want to be real with one another. And this unfolded for my wife and I. We're in this thing called Supper Club. There's a couple of our friends that are in it that are here. And it's exactly what you think. It's a club where we eat supper, all right, in case you were trying to figure that out. And we bring our kids, and then we let our kids roam free, and it very much does turn into Lord of the Flies, and we hope that they all survive. And it's more like Hunger Games. May the odds be ever in your favor, children. We're going to be adults because we don't want you around right now. And on the way into our evening recently, my wife and I were having what we call discussions, because we don't fight. I don't know, you guys might fight, but we don't. We just have discussions. And sometimes those are car conversations, and those go awful. And they never go in my favor. And so we're walking up, and nothing bad. I don't want you guys coming up after service. Are you guys okay? Are you guys getting to it? No, we're real life happens, and we're married, and sometimes stuff hits the fan. And so we're walking up to this, and I really didn't want to be there. I was like, I love all those people. I'm like, I don't want to go look at any of them. And she's like, why are we even here? I was like, I don't know, because you made me come. And whatever. And so we're all the way up to the door, like all the way up, and then we get to the door, ding dong, and walk in. I'm like, hey. I'm like, hey. Like, I'm not even playing because they're our friends and we can just be real. It's like, what's going on? I was like, I don't know, you ask her. And because I'm a smart man. Actually, a smart man would have just been quiet. And so we go on. But the thing is, because we were so like wrapped up in like we were helping other people, and then our kids were involved in stuff, and then our schedules were kind of crazy. We just honestly, we had not had time to address what was going on. And none of it was necessarily bad stuff. It was just, things got crazy, and, who does what around the house and whatever. And I was wrong. And it's true. And it's just because my wife's great. And sometimes I don't see it because I'm dumb. And so we don't have a chance to talk about this. So instead, it turned into an evening of 4 dudes at one end of the table and 4 ladies at the other end unpacking our situation. And I was like, I hate all these people. I just want to go home. And I'm sure we're not supposed to feel that way, whatever. But I was just like, but I realized something very quickly in the middle of it. But I kind of shut down because that's just how I function. I don't do well with confrontation and stuff. And so I was like, whatever, or I'll just get sarcastic because that's what we do. If you're sarcastic, you're like, no, I just do it because it's funny. It's a defense mechanism because you got something deeper going on. Yes, I'm psychoanalyzing you. And so I got sarcastic, and we left. And on the drive home, I realized I'm not with God. Let's go back to that quote that was before the Francis Chan quote real quick. I didn't do this first service. It's the slide before this one, I think. Maybe, or maybe not. There we go. When 2 people are right with him, they will be right with each other. My wife was together with God, and I was getting lost in the woods of what was going on. And I tell you what, like, I was not honoring her the way that I should. I wasn't doing the things that I needed to do. But we talked it out. Like, we had a discussion. And I can tell you this. Real, just person to person. I know, like, what you might be going through might be super heavy. You might be single right now. You'd be like, I don't have any of that drama, and I'm good. Like, single for life. Like, you're doing, and that's good. But I don't know where you find yourself, but I got to tell you this. Whether you're in the throes of the lunchroom dating scenario in middle school, or whether you've been married for 20 years, we are all messed up. And when we begin to realize that, things begin to change. And it's just like it was in our main idea, that broken people with unbroken hearts. That basically says, we could say broken people who are unteachable. They have unteachable hearts, can only change through the power of what? Love. The only thing that can change us is God's love. All the other stuff is secondary to understanding his love. And when we begin to wrap ourselves in that, everything changes. Every week, we end service focused on that very love. The very love that Jesus came for you and I, because we've all fallen short and made mistakes, and died in our place because someone had to pay the price for missing the mark, for sinning, for messing up. And God says, I'll send my son to take care of you and set you free so we don't have to. And so that is a celebration. And so every week we remember that sacrifice by taking communion and the bread and the juice that represents that sacrifice that was given so that we could be free. And if you're uncomfortable, you can let that tray pass. But I would just ask you, before the ushers come, to contemplate this one thing. No matter where you're at, whether you're single, you're divorced, you're moving through heavy times as a married couple, you're dating, you're still in that middle school, high school range, relish it for every bit of where you're at right now. I would ask you to ask God this. God, am I moving at a pace that is truly honoring your love with all of my relationships? And if I'm not, God, will you reveal those things to me? In first service, I asked everybody if they could take that same passage, that love passage, and put their own name in it? And would it still be true? Jason is patient. Jason is kind. I can't even get past the first comma. Jason is not patient. And so I'm like, he doesn't envy, he doesn't boast, he isn't proud. As you take communion today, maybe for you, you talk with God and go, God, can that passage be true of me? And if it's not, God, reveal to me what needs to change so it could be.